Just how much trouble are the Conservative Party in, not just as a government, but also as a political party? The Tory party's standing in the voting attention opinion polls has been dire for what for them is a deeply troubling and long period of time. But it was in the post-Boris Johnson phase that fundamental policy divisions were really underlined and came to the fore. And recently, former leader William Hague used his Times column and then a speech he was invited to give to the cabinet at Chequers to suggest that if they could pull together, they could both recover their political fortunes and even contemplate a further victory. Well, today the heroine of the tax-cutting group within the Conservative Party, Liz Truss, former Prime Minister, writes her own piece in the Sunday Telegraph, giving her version of events of what it was like to be a Prime Minister who, and as she says, wasn't even given a chance to have a go at the budget that she wanted to do. And she talks about the Treasury being opposed to growth and the party having lost its way on growth and taxation and all of the rest of it. There's limited criticisms aimed at Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt's unwillingness to think again on taxation, but she is on the record as saying she thinks taxing businesses, higher rates of corporation tax, are profoundly wrong and would further limit growth. That was the subject of much of our conversation yesterday. So it would appear no sign there of pulling together, but that is partly because these are essential questions for the Conservative parties. Many, like Liz Truss, believe that the party isn't seen to stand anymore for lower taxation or indeed for growth. It stands for nothing, some are concerned. Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt certainly are only in favour of tax cuts when the economy can bear them and the public finances can manage them. Well, meanwhile, Labour is, of course, being seen by many of you as now being trustworthy on the economy. That is not my judgment. It is your judgment in many recent opinion polls. It's difficult to overestimate how bad the Conservative Party's prospects are as things stand at the moment. The largest number of sitting Tory MPs that most of us can ever remember have already said that they will not be running again come the general election, whenever that may or may not be. Backbenchers also are repeatedly being told, it says, by the whips that if they don't support whatever is in that spring budget from Jeremy Hunt, then they will lose the party whip. Well, that's not really a surprising threat, given that the budget is one of the most important votes that any party has to try and get through on behalf of its government. But it has made it very, very clear that the concerns also grow within the party of what Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt have in mind. And that's why the Sunday Telegraph says, let's have it out in the open and let's have that public debate now and try to resolve the differences. There are other fringe issues as well. Allegations of serial bullying against Mr. Sunak's close friend and ally, Dominic Raab, persist in the newspapers today. They aren't going away. Senior figures are saying he should step aside and that would clear the space, perhaps, for the resolution of one of the issues that's niggling at the government. So it is all about leadership, perhaps, judgment, and much more besides. And I think it is essentially about what a Tory is nowadays on tax, the economy, and indeed on growth. Many grassroots Conservatives liked what Liz Truss had to offer in that budget that never happened or never succeeded or got off the ground in reality. In anticipation of that, most Tory MPs didn't, and we now know that in retrospection and in history. We are speaking to one of those in just a moment. So how does the party accommodate both what Mr. Sunak stands for and believes in and what Liz Truss thinks is the only way back for the Conservative Party? Thatcher never reconciled but what ultimately never was reconciled with by the party, and ultimately, of course, they dumped her. Well, today I'm talking to folk who really do know just how much trouble the party is in And if William Hague is deluding himself in saying that if the party can pull together, find something upon which to pull together, then they are back in with a chance and back in the fight. Is it recoverable? Or is the divide on economic philosophy, however that debate the Sunday Telegraph calls for is resolved, simply too wide?